Hi there, that's right, great and glorious, soon to be famous one day, Nick Dutch back on the camera again. Hi there, how the heck's it going? Now, there's been a question which has cropped up on a couple of occasions, once on the blog TV session which I did last night just for a couple of hours, and once in the comment section of one of my videos, and it's basically, what is it that's led you to believe? Well, the question was actually, like, what was it that's made you believe in God? What strange experiences have you had that's made you believe in God? Firstly, on the subject of God, that's a difficult one. A very difficult one. Because precisely what do you mean? Do you mean the all-loving God? Do you mean the all-loving God who's quite happy to kill people in a flood? Do you mean the God of mercy, the God of justice? What concept do you mean by God? Do you mean the God of pagans, the geezer with the horn sticking out of his head? Do you mean Master of the Universe? What precisely do you mean when you say God, as far as a conscious being which has some influence upon the world? I really could not say whether I know that such a thing exists or not. But there were many strange experiences which I personally have had which have led me to think, on the basis of experience, that there is some other thing in the world apart from just the straightforward basic physical world with physical laws that does physical things or chemical things in the body or electrochemical things in the brain and in the brain of my computer, the central processing unit. That there's something else in the world which happens to be true but which is rather elusive. But nevertheless, it just is still somehow there, and it's complex, but it's still somehow there. So let me just try and give you a bit of a lowdown, rundown. And this is a completely unscripted video, and maybe that's the way we get the most honest videos, you could say, hypothetically, because I'm just speaking from the heart. I'm speaking from my mind and my memories, thoughts and feelings, because the only way that any of us humans can learn about life is through meeting with people, talking with people, reading stuff, experiences, just trying to pick up some understanding of little aspects of life and or reality with the passage of time. That's basically all that we can do. And yes, we've got libraries, we've got YouTube where there's tons of information if you know how to separate the good from the bad. There's Google Scholar and all the rest of that, and it's all out there. And it's all there to add to our ability to understand life and to try and build up an understanding of the way that the world works. But also personal experience is part of the equation somehow as well. And that's something we've got to bear in mind. Seriously, we've got to bear that in mind. Cheers. So, like, the most salient first experience that I've had of something strange happening was when I was about 4 years old and I saw a ghost. A traditional sort of white lady kind of thing. Looked like a lady dressed in Victorian clothes with a bustle. Either that or she had a massive bum sticking out at a funny angle. Long flowing dress. Totally transparent. And moved across the wall. They just vanished. And that was rather strange, and it was peculiar. I could see my Mr. Men wallpaper through her, so that shows you how long ago it was for me. Now I'm nearly 36. But that's what I saw. That is what happens. Okay, that's a personal experience which I'm relating to you. Can I say that's proof of life after death? I don't know. Can I say it's proof that ghosts exist? I don't know. All I can say is, all I can do is describe the experience to you. That's it. But I saw this thing, and that is straight out fact. That's what happened. The next group of salient experiences that I had that spring to mind is when I was in my teens. I learned about this Buddhist chant, which is Nam Mam Maringo Keo. I'm sure lots of you have heard of it. And I tried repeating it to help me calm down, deal with stress and all the rest of that. Then one day when the parents are out, I decided to chant it, loud, out loud. And I enjoyed it, and I had this crazy idea that at the end of it I could make a wish and see what happens. And there was me just not believing that anything could happen as a result of me coming out with this chant and then making a wish and something happening. I just didn't believe that. It was just like a little sort of head game for me at the time. But I wished to see glimpses of the future in my dreams. This then started to happen, and it was frightening, because I would just get 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes worth of time, almost at random, from like 5 nights in the future being played back to me later on. And it was from the same position of my eyes. It was like a camcorder was placed in the position of my eyes, and the whole thing was played back to me whilst I was asleep before it happened. With no knowledge as to where this event was going to happen or when it was going to happen. I just get these little flashes. That was spooky. But it got me curious, and that's what led me to go down to the bookshops and start spending my benefits money on books on the occult. It just did, okay? So I started to learn stuff, and I got involved in the pagan group and all the rest of that, and started hearing people coming out with their opinions, which of course I now know is just opinions. And I started to experiment on my own. And I was very typical adolescents who got involved with the occult. You know, I made myself a little robe. I looked stupid in it, I really did. And I made myself some ritual tools and artifacts, and I got some candles, and I designed a ritual based upon the writings of Alphonse Louis Constant, and a few other things that I had picked up from here, there, and everywhere for the invocation of the Angel of Death. During the ritual itself, the only noticeable change that I could feel was a very calm, tranquil, prayerful state of mind come upon me. But once I'd finished the ritual and I'd extinguished all the candles, there was a very peculiar feeling in the area where I'd done the ritual. It felt almost as if that part of the room was somehow darker than all the rest of it. It was peculiar. I know all the lights were out, so the whole room was dark, okay? But you know, I don't know whether you get this, but like when it's totally dark, you still get some kind of like vaguely grey, cloudy kind of like colours in your eyes sometimes. Very slightly, because like at night you only have really good peripheral vision, and it's always grainy and in monochrome. So there's always some kind of like very, very subtle visual noise. And I could see that that area of the room was blacker than the rest of it, which was strange in its own right. But I disregarded it, you know, I just disregarded it, and I went to bed. But being a twisted little adolescent, I had my mind racked with all kinds of adolescent angst, basically. And I thought, as it were, very loud, the way one does when one screams into one's pillow when one's had like a really, really bad day, why must I suffer? And I sent it, so to speak, to the centre of the room where that circle was, where I'd done the ritual. Within an instant, I got something which felt like a bolt of electricity coming back at me. And I heard words in it, alright? It was not via the sense of hearing. It was as if that bolt of energy, that bolt of electricity, or whatever it was, contains the meaning of the words. And the words were, because you chose it. And that was spooky in its own right, you know, but that was not too extreme. It was a very, very subtle message, basically. And I disregarded it. I turned over onto my right-hand side, as I did at the time, and I got some sleep. But I kind of like came to in the dead of the night, sort of semi-awake, semi-asleep. And I could feel this pressure on my thigh and on my shoulder. And I turned round and looked up. And there, made out of little sparkly black and red blobs that seemed to be moving in like a swarm of insects or a swarm of wasps, there was this figure. And it was an anatomically correct skeleton, standing over me with one hand on my right thigh and one hand on my shoulder. And the emotions and feelings which came from this apparent being was that of fatherly love. It was a peculiar sensation, and weird. It was weird. Okay. Another strange experience I had was when I was a little older, and I had this friend of mine who had the misfortune to have received some form of abuse when he was younger, which gave him a psychotic mentality. He was out of reality, you know, slow brainwave frequencies, needed dopamine to stop himself from being completely certifiable. Before I went to see him, before I got on my motorcycle and went to see him, I decided to do a visualization for the hell of it, just to practice my visualization skills. And I visualized a 5-pointed star being drawn on my face in light. Just little lines of light on my face. I was quite aware that my visualization skills were pretty bad at the time. And and I only got like that point, and that point done very well in my visualization when I was doing the meditation. But I thought, what the hell, it's just me having a bit of a laugh. And I got on my motorcycle and I went to see this friend of mine. He was upstairs in his bedroom. I said hello to his mother. Can I go nip upstairs and see my friend? She says, yeah, sure. He's just chilling out. So I opened his bedroom door and was about to say hi, and the first thing he says to me is, I can see 3 points of a star on your face. Now, I hadn't told him that I was going to do that visualization exercise at all. But yet, that's what he said to me the very first moment I put my head round the door. That was spooky. And weird. And again, suggests that maybe there's something else to life apart from just the standard, straightforward physical rules of existence. I've had other experiences too, like I would go to a spiritual healer and I would feel this strange electric energy moving up the limbs that they were doing the healing upon. I would freak out the spiritual healer by me telling the spiritual healer what I was feeling, and them turning around to me and saying, yeah, that's weird, because that's what I was trying to do. I've given other people a spiritual healing, and they've reported back occasionally, not always, right, but occasionally they report back they can feel a lot of heat and electricity coming out of my hands, which is also weird. I don't know whether these people got any medical therapeutic benefit from the healing I was doing on them. I've got no idea at all. But the fact of the matter is, this is what people have reported, which is very strange. I have had experiences when doing extended experiential experiments into prayer, and I've had things appearing before me. Like something that the height of a man, just a three-dimensional black shadow of a man just appearing there. That would appear and then go. Which is also weird. I've practiced with astral projection, and I have had occasions when the person I was going to astrally project to would say that they dreamt of me on that night. The next night, often without me prompting them. And they would describe the dream, and it would have strong correlations with what I was trying to create in the astral projection type experience. These are just some of the things which have happened, and therefore strange stuff seems to occur. Is it reliable? I don't think so. I've also done other forms of astral projection in which I had the total experience of being out of my body, which is great fun. Of course, it means very little because it's just an experience, but it's just like being just as awake and alert as I am now in the physical body right now. But it's just my physical body is like upstairs sleeping whilst I'm wherever. And these experiences aren't always controllable, but they do just seem to occur. And there's other empathic experiences I've had as well, which are also more difficult to define, when you can feel when someone's got something wrong with them. But that's even, that's more difficult because it's just a feeling, rather than something as concrete as the 3 points of a star experience, or the astral projection and dream telepathy type experience. These things are just the tip of the iceberg. These things are just the most salient ones, okay? Then, of course, there's a time when I went to the psychic fair. Sorry, it wasn't a psychic fair, it was a university ball. And I was the entertainer there doing the tarot readings. And this girl sat in front of me and says, what am I going to do for a living when I'm older? And I get a vision of a massive factory that's making tons of wool, and I don't know what that means. So I tell her, you'll be involved in manufacture. She says, no, you're talking rubbish, I'm studying medicine. And I says, well, okay, well, all I can do is tell you what I can see, and I'm seeing this factory that's making lots and lots of wool. And then she says, well, okay, my mother was in the wool industry, her mother before her was a weaver, and her mother before her was a weaver, and her mother before her was a weaver. And then I start to think to myself that, there's something interesting happening there, and I don't understand that either. But what the heck, it happened. But as I say, these experiences I'm describing to you today, these are just the tip of the iceberg. And I don't know what they mean. Apart from the fact they happened. That's it. They just happened. So please do forgive me if I'm going to carry on being someone who tries to experience more and experiments into all this strange stuff. Please do. Because I feel that this says something about us as people. It says something about us as human beings. It says something about our experiences that we can get that have some kind of connection to the way that we integrate and interact with the rest of the world. These things are real to a certain degree. The only thing which I personally feel that I can say 110% reliably about these experiences is that they seem to occur in varieties of altered states of consciousness. Alright, I know that's a very woolly term, but prayer is an altered state of consciousness. If you can actually do it enough to be able to get there rather than just sit there and recite stuff. Because we're sitting there and just reciting the Lord's Prayer once and then going to bed, that's not prayer as far as I'm concerned. There's a state of mind, a certain mood, which is calm, reverent, tranquil. It's a very real emotion in its own right, and it can be difficult to get, but when you're there, you feel it. It's a very tranquil feeling up here. It's difficult to describe, but you've got to try it to be able to know what it feels like, if you know what I mean. Maybe you don't, I don't know. And there's other types of altered states of consciousness, like very deep, slow brainwave meditational frequencies. And then there's those which are more like the gamma frequencies of like euphoria and floating and flying and that sort of thing. And those seem to have some kind of benefits as well. And it's part and parcel of my exploration into life, I guess. To choose to carry on trying to have more strange experiences. Do I believe in what these things suggest? No, I'm very aware that because I've seen a ghost, it doesn't necessarily mean to say that ghost exists. Just because I've seen the angel of death doesn't mean to say that the angel of death exists. These are just experiences, and we can't really place too much objective reality upon them. All we can do is say that they're experiences. But when there's like the three points of the five-pointed star experience, or when there's like the astral projection dream telepathy experience, then you start thinking, wow, there's something else happening in the world, and I don't understand what it is. So, going back to the original idea, this idea of God, in what way do I, in inverted commas, believe in God? The word God to me stands for something which you can try and experience in meditation, either that or it's an object of meditation or contemplation. Cheers. I mean, does it matter whether God exists? I don't think so. Does it matter that some people believe that God exists? Well, if they want to, then they can. I'm not worried about that. I still want to be an independent individual who is a thinking individual more than anything else, and I'm not going to be concerned that like spirits or the Holy Spirit can watch me when I'm having a shower or whatever, and I'm not going to worry too much about like guilt things and the rest of it. I'm just going to carry on exploring. If I'm doing a meditative type experiment and I have noticed the dramatic change of mood which seems to occur when you have a meditative type experience, and I insert into the mix words such as God or God the Father or Elohim Gibor, being the mighty all-conquering God, which I think is a really wicked one, totally Conan the Barbarian, sounds wonderful. The moods which come upon me are very different, that much I can say. So maybe God is a part of my personal practices, rather than necessarily something which I think exists, full stop. Or maybe I can treat this thing, this experience, as if it exists when I want to have one of these weird experiences. Or when I want to try and achieve one of these weird experiences, I should say, maybe. I mean, I suppose I could say, or I might as well say, that all of these weird experiences are part of God. Or God is these weird experiences. Or God is the concept that I apply in meditation. Or maybe this God thing is everywhere, as well as in us, as well as in the strange experiences, and as in everything which is physical and non-physical. I do not know. I think that would make some sense, basically. And it could be a successful way of looking at the idea of God. But do I have to be afraid of it? No. Do I have to be worried about it? No. Do I have to even think remotely about the concepts which are in any holy book? Not really. I think the term deist does still make sense, because I suppose the word God somehow is like a glue which puts all of these strange experiences together in one massive blob, and that would make some sense as well. The experiences are weird. The ones I've mentioned today, they are just the tip of the iceberg. Although they are subjective, they have happened, and it is peculiar. Now, I'm sure in this video I've left a lot of things which, I've left a lot of ends which should be tied up. But what I have done is given you an idea as to why I am Nick Dutch, why I think the way I do, why I, in inverted commas, believe. I know that I do not know, and I know there's lots more things that I do not know, and I know there's lots more things that I don't know that I don't know, and there's lots more things which I do know that I don't know, or should I say I know that I don't know them. I've got to be very careful about extrapolation and extrapolating too far. My main skepticism is about other people's claims, especially to objective reality. For instance, if someone says that, the god or goddess has revealed themselves to me, I think that's a very extreme claim to make. Or we know that such and such is true. No, we don't know these things are true. All we have is some experiences and a desire to experiment further and explore further and to continually ask questions. That's what we have. We don't have answers. Too many people want to have the ambiguity taken away from them, as one particular relatively well-known YouTuber would probably say. But for me, the ambiguity is there, and the ambiguity is basically very important. There's lots of things that we as a species don't know, and we have to be honest about that. And as far as exploring these experiences, well, the only thing we can do is carry on doing them. Carry on doing meditation exercises, prayerful exercises, all the rest of that, just to see what we can try and experience. And things don't come automatically. There are some things we do know from natural science, and that is that the brain changes in structure if you do a lot of meditation or a lot of prayer, for instance. This is known. So, maybe being a person who does meditation and prayer a lot, and for long enough periods of time, changes the brain to enable experiences, and possibly to enable the ability to make experiences happen to other people. I bid you good fortune, God and or goddess and or none of the above, bless. And I say that to keep everybody happy out there. Great and glorious, soon to be famous one day, Nick Dutch, signing out for now.